All right. Good morning. Happy Wednesday, I believe it is. And welcome to some more musings. So, last night we had I don't know what that was called, like the addressing Congress or anyways, we had the president talk to Congress and just kind of update and give like a status update, a job update of what he's been doing. Now, and a lot of my family and friends just absolutely hate him for his stance on transgender stuff, DEI stuff. A lot of my coworkers, a lot of CSU staff, they're not happy about. Oh, sorry. They're not happy about it, and neither am I. Like, I mean, I believe there is value to DEI, equity. I mean, I truly believe that there are still, and it all goes back to the war on drugs for me. I mean, that's the biggest thing in weed and how it disproportionately targeted, non-white people. Like white people, they're easier to play it off, especially as we continue to legalize it and like normalize it. I mean, it's easier for white people to just show respect to law enforcement because we're a lot less of a threat of getting in trouble. Now, not completely not going to get in trouble. Like, and that's where that all lives matter and Black Lives Matter clash came from. It's because if you look at the actual statistics of people that get killed by cops, it's a lot higher. I mean, well, actually, I would need to look it up before I said with any actual authority. So, please don't take everything or please take everything I say with a grain of salt because I haven't fact checked this recently. I just remember what I was debating with people online because I used to debate, in favor of Black Lives Matter, and I still believe that Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. Like, I mean, we shouldn't be at war with our own citizens. That's how you make America great. And if you want cops to not have such dangerous jobs, don't make them enforce such stupid rules that put people in prison for years of their life for a substance. Like, that's what just drives me nuts. It's like a stamp, no erasey, like child's game. Like, oh, you got a baggie of powder in your pocket. Oh, and like, like circle, dot, dot. Oh, you didn't get your cootie shot, so now you're in jail for 5 years. And it's like, what? And I've been posting that video where it has a side by side of former President Biden and his son Hunter smoking more crack than would have gotten a normal person put in prison for 5 years. And it's Biden saying, if you get caught with a quarter-sized amount of crack cocaine, the judge has no choice. They have to do it. They have to put you in prison for 5 years, and they can take everything you have. So right there, you're stealing from Americans. You're picking and choosing the people to pay the tab, to pay the bills of America, and it's people that are already down on their luck or or whatever. And maybe not. Maybe he was intending for the rich like the rich, wealthy people that were using these drugs and they get caught. But the thing is they won't get caught because the only people that get caught are the people that it's substance abuse, where they're having problems, where they're using it outside the comfort of their own home or a hotel, or they're not able to keep it from the public eye, and then when it becomes into the public eye and the people are just using drugs in, around where kids could be or whatever, like that's where it becomes a problem for society and the police have to interact or intervene and stop the, public consumption of substances. Now, if you do it in the privacy of your own home or behind closed doors and nobody even knows, it's like that. If a tree falls in the woods, does anybody hear it? And that's the sad state of things. So, and right there, that tells me it wasn't the drug ever. Because if it was just the drug, it'd be like, oh no, like these rich, wealthy people, they're in such danger. Like they're using this drug that's gonna, oh wait, it just makes them happy for a few hours and then makes them a little cranky and then, maybe addicted, but also like maybe not. And the only real, and then, I don't know. But anyways, let's get back to the presidential thing because I actually just woke up a little early, so we're gonna do a before work episode because it was a big deal last night. Also, I need to make a bunch of these into slabs, and I was thinking about making a bunch of walls, but I'm making an underground red like palace. So wait, didn't I? I mean, worst case, it's just over here. And wait, do you have new goods to trade? No, I already. Wait, let's look at that though. This thing, I don't know. I think that's part of the new open eye blossom. I think that's part of the new like evil or faded or whatever that is. But as far as one thing I will say that needs to be removed from the war on drugs is fentanyl. Like, the cartels have been using fentanyl to make drugs extra addicting, to intentionally hook their buyers and get more business. It's a business move. Like, they're trying to be capitalists with using addictive substances when cocaine and actually, really, the main things that they export are cocaine. Like, that's it. Like, that's what they do. I mean, they're getting into the other stuff, kind of, but not really. Like, I feel like that's still a bunch of bikers and chemists and white trash, like, that end up making, like, meth and, oh, heroin. Yeah, they probably import a lot of heroin, but, like, if it was just normal heroin, that's not that bad. Like, yes, it's still bad. It's still super addicting, and people, like, the people that I've seen struggling with that kind of addictive battle, like they fight an uphill battle. It's a lot harsher than like coke or even crack. Now, crack's still bad too. Like I've seen people have really hard times with that. But the thing with that is once they've stayed like a few hours away from it or a day and they break like the immediate addiction, then it's not nearly that bad. And all of this is amplified by alcohol. Now, and it's not fair to say, oh, well, let's just ban alcohol because there's plenty of people that use alcohol that don't have a problem and that it never gets any farther than that. Most of the time, it's because they're already comfortable in their lives. They don't have to have like the worries that a lot of other people have. And and so for that part, I do like what Trump said last night. Actually, to be honest, I was excited the whole time because I had already talked to, um, well, I've been listening to Elon and Trump and seeing what they want to do, and I still disagree with the transgender stuff. I think that is an intimate, again, the Jon Stewart approach. Like he interviewed this lady from Arkansas. I think she was like the attorney general or someone, and he was saying, like, why are you dismissing these studies from these same institutes that say transgender isn't a mental disease? Like, there's gender dysphoria, which is where they believe they're in the wrong body or in the wrong gender, and their gender identity is something other than what they were born with. And I believe that, just like gay people. Like, I mean, it's definitely not a choice. Like, I mean, maybe in some situations it is, but like for the people that are really like attracted to the same sex, and I say sex because sex and gender are different. Like gender is more of like an identity, a role, and I learned about the hydras in India that, before I even really thought too much about transgender people here in the States. And this was back during my undergrad, and I actually went to India and saw some hydras. They're just cross-dressing transgender people that they hang out and try to give out sexual favors under bridges and stuff, and like places where cars stop. And our taxi driver said, "Don't look at them. Don't pay attention. They'll leave you alone. They'll go away." But if you pay attention, you're like, "Oh, hey, maybe I want to slap and tickle, like, or maybe I want to, hire someone for some adult entertainment services or something." Or they'll take care of me, massages, sex acts, stuff like that. Like, that's what they want to do, and like and from a biological standpoint, they have the drive of a male, but yet, like, they want to attract a male. So, and it's like an exponential, just kind of like thing where it's just like you get the testosterone going both ways, and then if you trick the person into who's still attracted to females, like, but oh, I mean, this is close enough, and then you kind of get that. And so, and my whole take on it is if we're trying to be a free nation, leave them alone. Like, let them do what they want to do. Pursuit of happiness, it's an unalienable right. Now, just because it doesn't really align with the Bible and Christianity, at the same time, though, I don't know if it doesn't. Like, so they say gay stuff is condoned in the Bible, like one, maybe two spots. And like in sodomy, sodomites, there's still some debate on whether that's actual what we say sodomy is versus Sodom and Gomorrah. That was an actual place, and I feel like that was more like people being King Herods and like greedy and like not helping the poor and not looking out for the needy. And that's why they were like, oh, don't be like a sodomite. Whereas I think somewhere along the lines, someone named gay intercourse sodomy to try to ruin it. Same with marijuana and cannabis. Like they wanted to make it Spanish, so anybody who has a predisposition to not like Spanish or is even slightly biased against Hispanic people or anyone from Central or South America, which is ridiculous because that's part of our neighborhood. Like those are our neighbors. And it's beautiful countries and very nice people, and because they're people just like us, like they're not some monsters, you know. And a lot of people just haven't even gone there and seen, like, oh wait, they're the same as me. Like I could probably find a Homer Simpson down there that acts and walks and talks just like me, only Spanish, but he's fed up with the same things and rolls his eyes at the same things, and you know, and we're finding that, and that's one of the things that people, I feel like people aren't really paying attention to, is like with Milei, the Argentina president. He slashed a lot of things, and at first I was like, oh no, don't be slashing that. Like some of that stuff you really need. But now, watching like some numbers come in from there, it just seems very positive. And I'm not a professional economist. Like I've taken some economic classes. I've done micro, macro, accounting, finance, management. Like I have a minor in business administration, so I did take quite a few classes to learn how to run a business and what to do in a business. But it's still a minor. My main focus is in technology and being able to understand problems and why computers might not act as expected, stuff like that. And mainly my focus is actually human computer interactions, like how, we've got the computer side down. If you're understanding how it works, it's really easy to use a bunch of these machines. However, if you don't have that familiarity and that understanding of computers, it could be kind of a nightmare. So, hence why I thrive in IT. I can break down complex things. That's my job. Like so, as far as government and stuff and leadership, I still, have quite a bit of leadership experience as well. Kind of like Jesse Pinkman. Like, I used to lead in the underground back when, weed was demonized and vilified. And now I spend a lot of my time debating angry Karen parents. Like, been blocked by quite a few people. Thankfully, I'm not blocked by Sam, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, because that's like the head of it. I've actually talked with Kevin Sorbet or Sarbet about it, and like I was like, where's your funding coming from? If it's linked to in any way, shape, or form to fentanyl and pharmaceuticals, you're done. Like, that's actually like execution possible. Like, because Trump is talking about executing fentanyl dealers, and I'm sorry, like whoever caused the opiate epidemic, all those doctors and everything, I mean, I don't think like execution should be a thing, but definitely prison. They should be in prison for like 5 years. I think that was where Biden was trying to go with that. If it was a harmful drug, now crack, it's not great. I'm not saying like it's beneficial in like any way, shape, or form. It's a rush of energy. It's like slamming a bunch of energy drinks while at the same time feeling good. Like it just releases your pleasure chemicals in an unnatural way that your body isn't aware to handle. And then also the sleep deprivation, like a lot of those stimulants, you literally can't go to sleep. And then it's like your body starts to deteriorate. You start seeing shadow people because you have sleep deprivation going on. And it's just unhealthy for your body. However, it's not nearly as dangerous as alcohol because like the rate of exposure to it is much smaller. Nobody can afford to be on drugs for that long. And that's when you start getting into the problems where you start stealing from people, stealing from family members, like not wanting the high to like go away because your brain was so used to all these pleasure chemicals. And then you have to like wake up with the harsh reality, and oftentimes it ends up in jail. So that aspect I can get, but like, I know people doing several years because of that crime bill, like the 1996 crime bill. And that's what makes it dangerous for law enforcement. So one of the other things that Trump talked about last night was protecting our law enforcement. Well, the best way to protect our law enforcement, don't make them enforce stupid laws like, like the crime bill. Like if you have somebody that, oh, hey, by the way, you're going to go to prison for 5 years because you have this little rock of crack in your pocket now. What they really need is if they were caught, like meaning that they were exposing their substance use or, doing things in unsafe and public ways, like it's like PDAs. You can't just be making out with somebody on the subway. It's disrespectful to everybody else that's using that public transportation. Same if you're using drugs on the subway and someone else is just trying to go to work and have a normal day, that's messed up. So then police are going to come and have a talk with you. Like, you weren't able to keep this out of the public eye. So therefore, you're having a problem with it, an issue. So, and that's where we need to like. Oh wait, I heard one extra clink. No? Okay. So you can see there's blocks over there, but I believe that's supposed to be there. That's those blocks for the. Not that it matters. Like now I have a ton of netherwort growing, so I can make a bunch of these, and it's really easy to go down. I mean, it degrades the pickaxe pretty quickly because you're just breaking tons of blocks. Like here, it's a little slow because they're a little more durable, um, but like with netherrack, you can just like all through stuff. So anyways, so I really like the address, and I have a lot of friends that are MAGA. They've been MAGA this whole time. They've been listening to the speeches. They've been hearing what he's saying. And for me, it's really like three main points. The withdrawal from Afghanistan was horrible, and I have friends in the military that they all said it was bogus. Like, why? Why did they leave all that? And I read somewhere that it was supposed to be for the Afghan government. We were giving them all these gifts, but it's like, wait, what? No, like, no, take our stuff with us. We already gave plenty of weapons to all of the different militant groups, and like and that's why I like Tulsi Gabbard, because she was like standing in front of someone like testifying that we were funding both sides of the war, which we did during World War II. There were companies and banks that funded the Nazis and funded Germany, like, and they were playing both sides of the war. They were into whoops, and that was messed up. So, but this would be potentially giving weapons to our enemies. And I want to know if that happened. I don't care if the CIA is supposed to be super secret or something. My buddy got blown up twice. He was driving for one of the generals there in Iraq, and his Humvee got blown up. Thankfully, he's alive, but he can't hear out of one ear. He got a broken arm, a broken nose. Like, he got beat up really bad. It was like he just got the crud beat out of him. And, and you're hearing. That's something that's never going to come back. Now he's going to have like an implant if he can afford it. Now he's got like PTSD from all that. He's probably drinking himself stupid. And I know like substance use was already kind of a thing back in the day for all of us. And like, and that's just going to be amplified if he has like a less than perfect life. Like I would go nuts if I couldn't hear out of one ear. I would be so mad. But he did that to serve his country. Like he didn't have to be over there. He could have gotten a job here. He could have, I mean, and I tried, but it wasn't honorable. Like they just decided that it didn't work out. I washed out, and so I did not serve. I was nice and comfy at home during all this. I did not have to drive a Humvee through a minefield. I didn't have to have rockets shot at me or worry about kicking an explosive when you kick a can around on the street. Like, all of these things, like, I didn't have to worry about. And so I respect the heck out of our military people that did this. And I think that's also why I kind of. So let's talk about. So transgender is all fine and good when it's done correctly. And I think this is the South Park approach, like the Lawfin. You can't just, mutilate yourself and say, oh, hey, I'm a dolphin. Like, it doesn't work like that. Now, you could say, like, you're a transgender female or transgender male. So that's kind of a whole classification in its own. And you have to be passable. And I feel like that's something that we need to work towards is like we need a standard, just like changing your name legally. If you change your gender legally, you go to a courthouse and you like there has to be like a review process. If you're just like a guy putting on a wig and just starting your transition, no, you're not a woman yet. You still have to go through these benchmarks of, and then we would feel confident to let transgender women use women's bathrooms and transgender men use. And I've seen some transgender men. Holy cow, they look like men. Like that passable, definitely. That ticks the boxes. Like they even have beards. Probably can grow a better beard than I can. Like they look and fine. And I'm like, okay. And honestly, like I was having a talk with some guy that had been to prison, and we were talking about peeing sitting down, and I said it as a making fun of him, but and like I even told him this, it's a safe insult because anybody who's been to prison most likely pees sitting down, and it's not for any submissive, dominant whatever reason like that. Like it might start as that, but it really is a cleanliness thing. And when you're in prison and you're sharing a toilet that doesn't even have a seat, with another person, your cellmate. Like, there's almost always two people to a toilet, so it's like, okay, well, you know, like, you don't pee standing up because then you're splashing everywhere, like spraying, and it really is dirtier than. And as a guy, I can tell that, like, I can tell you that, peeing standing up, there's a lot of risk for making a mess. And so, it actually makes sense to be sitting down. It's not like an offensive thing. It's not a thing. I mean, it could come off that way, but then if you really think about it, you're like, oh. And people have to kind of make that choice, be like, maybe I do. And this is kind of a little personal, but like my son went through a phase doing that, and I was just like, why? I tried to figure out his understanding, and I think he might go to school with some kids that have parents that have been to prison, and that's totally fine. Like, a lot of those people are my people. Like, I know a lot of people that have gone to prison, and like, again, same thing with like the people in other countries are humans too. People that go to prison, they're human. Like, they don't just change and become like some kind of creature. I mean, it might seem that way for a little while just because they're forced to live in weird ways, but like ultimately it's just people that made mistakes, and then they serve their time, they get out, and then hopefully they don't make any more mistakes, which, and that's where we need to address, and that's where communal comes in, and like actual logical rehabs that incorporate cannabis and psychedelics to really break the stranglehold of addiction or break the stranglehold of criminal thinking. And even by legalizing substances and removing black markets, we're already um, eliminating the stranglehold of addiction, because any substance, like literally, even, I mean, meth, I'm a little more like, yeah, that's kind of, that's still a dangerous one, but still, like, it's not a deal breaker. It's not like a death sentence. You might as well just go kill yourself, unless there's fentanyl in it, of course, and then that's where it's dangerous. And Trump's very against it, but he was talking fentanyl, and I support that. Anybody who knowingly laces their drugs with an addictive agent, much like tobacco uses very addictive chemicals in their cigarettes and their chewing tobacco, and even their snus now. I have a friend who uses snus, and it's like, well, no, technically you still chew. Like, that is chew. It's just in a pouch. Like, so. I mean, not that like, not saying I'm better than anyone or anything just because I quit tobacco, but it was a long, hard fight, and I did lozenges for years. Like, it was supposed to be like the 2 month plan or something, and I was on it for like 2 years just chewing lozenges, and and I couldn't afford them either, so I had to, sometimes, like, I could kind of, but they're way more expensive than cigarettes. It's like 50, $60 for a bottle of tablets, and I don't even remember how many tablets or how long it lasted, but so it's like not quite as expensive as like a carton of cigarettes, but you're almost using it like how much a carton would last if you're smoking. So I don't know. Also, I don't even know what I'm doing with this. I'm just making rooms of this palace, and it's going to be some kind of like, evil lair. Like, not even evil, like just, that's another thing. Like, what might be considered evil by some, by others. What's really evil is endless wars and profiteering off of war. Like, that's evil. That's selling the soul of all your followers. Like, oh yes, that's saying that I don't care about your well-being. For the good of the country, you're going to go get blown up. And oh, by the way, some of those explosives, we made them. We sold them. We made money off of them. So we're actually blowing you up. But we're contracting people, locals from these other countries, to blow up their houses and their towns, and then possibly kill you. Sound good? Oh yeah. And by the way, DEI and woke and all this, like, so okay, if it was just the DEI and woke without this other part of Obama bombing a bunch of people and Biden playing both sides of war and stuff, like, so these are the reasons that people are like really upset and want to be done funding Ukraine. And honestly, I think, like, I love the idea of Ukraine getting independence from Russia, but at the same time, like, it's not quite the same as like with America and England. We got our independence because England was trying to tax us from across an ocean. Like, we were basically like our own country, and we kept having to wait for permission across the pond, and they would just try to tell us things. And management was very hard because people weren't here directly seeing what was going on, so they were making judgment calls without knowing full stories and stuff, which probably seemed pretty harsh or ridiculous. So like anytime somebody tries to control from afar or control without knowing all the context, it's really hard to do a good job doing that. So that's why you need to be able to be on site in person. So anyways, that's like, Ukraine should be independent, and that's the thing, is Russia wants to let Ukraine be independent. They just didn't want Ukraine to join NATO. And now that we have BRICS, and like, that's kind of the other important thing, is being able to understand, wait a minute, so they have BRICS, they're forming their own NATO, and then how does that feel? Well, that's forced empathy. Like, oh, it doesn't feel too bad. It feels like they want to hurt us and they don't like us. Okay, well, how do you think NATO is? Like, NATO has just been randomly like, if you're not a Western democracy, you're not in the in club, and so it's very exclusive. And these countries are putting in millions and billions of dollars into raising up armies and making it to where, if push came to shove, yeah, we could invade China, we could invade Japan, we could invade. In fact, I think Japan's actually more on our side now. And if you look back to the Axis and Allies of World War II, it's almost like people are picking sides and carving out their team for a big fight, and they are too. Like China even said, like if they want to do a trade war, real war, anything war, like they're mad about the tariffs. And I don't know. But I mean, Trump had some pretty good points. Like he's a good businessman. Like listening to him talk, there were these things, and Russia's trying to play ball. Like Russia knows how to appease a capitalistic society with money and funding and all this. So like, hey, we'll do this. We just don't want to fight a war with you. And the rest of the people that are actually in military and stuff. And see, that's the other thing too, is a lot of the times, you know, so the Democratic response last night to the speech was actually pretty good. Like I thought they were going to be a lot worse. Like I mean, not a single Democrat stood up, clapped, or anything during the whole speech. And I kind of started feeling bad for Donald Trump. Like I was like, wow. I mean, he's doing all this stuff, and like whether you agree with it or not, he did get more done in the first like couple weeks than any presidency. I feel like he just ran through and did like tons of stuff. And I was like, well, okay, dang, I guess that happened. And and I still think we need like a transcontinental highway for transgender people, in the middle of surgeries, because you can't just stop that. Like, it's not good. Like, you can't stop any medication cold turkey. You got to wean off of things. So, and I don't know. And for transgender kids, I get their concern, but it's just as dumb as the pray the gay away, because these people are born the way that God made them is that they don't want to be that gender. They feel it that they are attracted to the other sex or to the same sex or something like, so they want to be more appealing to that same sex. And I get it. Like there's some very attractive transgender ladies. Like same with the guys. Like I mean, like I've seen some transgender guys that if I was talking to him, I would not be able to tell. Be like, dang, wait, you have that? And it's like, and sorry, trying to keep it PG on here, but like and it's like, oh, okay, well, that, and power to them. Like, if it makes them happy, I still feel that falls under the category of pursuit of happiness. Totally. Like, that is, like, oh, wait, hold on. Let's go ahead and drop this. We're clogging up here, and I don't need these blocks, but I hate wasting blocks. Like, see, all of these things would just disappear after a while if I don't pick them up. And then I've actually been using a lot of them to build the towers and stuff. Andesite I'm a little less sympathetic to. It just doesn't look good. But anyways, we'll make this room. We can continue to make it bigger. I mean, if anything, this doesn't have to be like the ultimate size of the room. This can just be like part of it, and then we can make more rooms. I was actually thinking about like Resident Evil, how they have the underground bases and they just continue to make it out like kind of like a hive or like kind of like something like that. It's pretty interesting. But anyways, so I don't know. I felt really good about it. I did enjoy the fact checking. I watched it on NPR, and they did fact check. Like he was exaggerating numbers. Like the investment to Ukraine, he said is like 350 billion. It was only 115 billion, which is still a lot. But he tripled it in his report and said we gave away this much money when that's not true. And then a lot of the things that he said that he cut had already been paid for and budgeted, so they weren't really like it wasn't saving anyone anything. So that was a lie. The actual savings of Doge was a fraction. They reported multiple things multiple times. And they have a website for transparency, so they want people to fact check it. And I think once Elon goes on Jon Stewart, we're going to get a lot more information that way. And I'm still a Democrat after all this. Like, I mean, I love a lot of what Trump's doing, but I also hate a lot of what Trump's doing. Like the transgender stuff, get your business out of it. And same with abortion stuff. Like, your religion says this. Well, my religion, and actually Christianity, it says a lot more about not charging interest on loans. Hmm. But here's the other thing that usually happens with Republican presidents is interest rates go down. Like big business starts coming back. And so then it's like, oh, well, let's put I guess we'll just throw a bunch of this in here temporarily until I, get the effort to move it and stuff. We'll keep the ore. Anyways, I don't know. And I got blocked by Lakota Man, and that still kind of pisses me off. Like, he's such a two-faced coward. Like, he's just so rallying on the hate and anger of people, and he's sucking it up and loving it. And it's like, we had some good conversations, and just because I don't, toe the line and all that, and he's like getting to the point where it's abusive of people. He's like, saying swear words, getting violent, like in his wording against people, and it's like, calm down, dude. Like, I get it. You're upset about these things, and you want to be a warrior. You want to be, but it's like a forceful advocate, not a good ally. Same with this other guy, Bad Brad Berkowitz. Like he was just like, Trump this and like I will fight you if you're a MAGA and all or maggot and like all this and saying all these things. And I kind of was on the bandwagon for a little bit and I was like liking his stuff. But then when it started getting into the offensive thing, I was like, now wait a minute, some of my friends are MAGA. Like I don't and same with Joe Biden, like dedicating or designating MAGA as a white supremacist terrorist group. It's like, what? What? No. And now I am starting to wonder if the election was stolen. There's just a lot of discrepancies that, yeah, supposedly it was like 63 court cases discovered that no, it was a lie and like we've proven this. But how? I mean, I've seen with my own eyes how court cases don't actually really mean squat. Like, I mean, they could, but in fact, let's actually make this a long hallway while we're talking. And actually, I gotta go. I gotta start getting ready for work. But so anyways, that's my reaction. I'm not really all that upset about things. Like I am upset about the super wealthy becoming even wealthier, but if they turn around and start paying their workers more, if we raise minimum wage, if we make a standard to where, people aren't living paycheck to paycheck anymore, and part of that is the stranglehold that is taxation. Like, and I was on the Pell Grant. I could barely afford college. I still have tens of thousands of dollars in debt. Thankfully, I have a good job. But for all the people that don't have a good job, like me, just a few years ago, I am concerned about that. And so I don't think we should be funding massive DEI projects until we get the cost of education down. Oh, there's the other alarm to make sure that I actually woke up for the day. But I think we need to get a handle on the runaway cost of education first. I mean, we can still have like private people doing DEI and donations and scholarships, and I think that's totally fine. I believe in DEI. I believe we need it. However, we also need our average Americans to be able to get an education and a job and not be restricted from that. We can't just alienate the other people either. I mean, and that's where I think those, same with Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter. Like Black Lives Matter, yes, it's a good movement and it had a lot of good pieces. However, it's racist in itself because it's neglecting all the white people that are getting killed by cops, the white people that are struggling with drug addiction, the white people that are struggling with the war on drugs. Like it's alienating an entire group, and it's not okay. Like and some people defend it militantly, like no, only Black Lives Matter, and like they'll get violent, all this, and mostly it's like hopped up white college kids too, like that are Antifa and stuff. It's not really even. I saw videos of like some white college kid looking person took their longboard and they were gonna go smash a window, and this black guy is just like, no, stop. That's not what we're doing. Like you're making us look bad. You're not helping. And so, and it's very true. Like in Colorado, and I'll say this, then we'll go, but we did a peaceful sit-in to get laws changed to where there are now liability laws. So if someone dies in police custody, that police officer could be charged. And that, I was talking to a buddy who's a cop and he hates it because now he could be liable for an accidental death. So now it's like, okay, we need to fix the fentanyl problem where people aren't dying. And yes, George Floyd, from what I've seen, I don't know if that's a real autopsy, but like supposedly he had fentanyl in his system. Okay, but would he have died and overdosed that way if he wasn't pinned down to the ground and not able to breathe? Like, that might not have killed a normal person, but if somebody is on a drug or had to eat a drug to not risk getting caught and arrested with it and put in prison for several years, like that person made a judgment call in the moment to risk their medical health safety by ingesting a bunch of drugs that they had on them for whatever reason. If they're hard on money and like, if they're addicted to things and they're trying to pass off counterfeit 20s, like maybe they They need to go to rehab. They need to be able to get a better, like an honest job or something or whatever. I mean, and drug dealing shouldn't be done by common people. It should be done by businesses and companies like dispensaries. Like we shouldn't be having black markets for anything where fentanyl or any a number of pollutants and heavy metals and stuff could be introduced to a substance. Like, because people, consenting adults are going to do what they do. I remember that on Breaking Bad when Gale talked about that. He's like, he's a libertarian. Like, people are adults. They should be able to make their own decisions. Like, and if they don't get it from me, they'll get it from somewhere else. And I can't guarantee the safety and purity with somebody else. And so, anyways, I got to get going. It's time to get ready for work. But that's just kind of like my idea of it all. And I hate it because Lakota Man isn't the only one. I've gotten into an argument with family members. I've lost a friend. In fact, and then I started talking to that friend again, and already he's like, we got to discount our other friend. I was like, why? Or I didn't even ask him. He's like, because he's all on the Trump wagon, the Trump train. I was like, maybe I am too. Like, I'm still a Democrat, but I got to be honest. Like, that was very appealing, a lot of the stuff he was saying. And why haven't we done it before? Like, why am I paying ridiculous amounts of college, like, expenses? Why is anybody paying ridiculous amounts for college? Like, we're supposed to be the greatest nation on earth, and yet we've got all this stuff. And it's not that I hate any person, demographic, or anything. I hate paying, out of state tuition basically for an in-state tuition. Like, it was supposed to be like 5,000 a year, ended up being 5,000 a semester. Like, it's ridiculous. And I know somebody that only paid $500 a semester because he's large enough percentage Native American, like, and able to prove it. I was like, okay, I'm glad, but everybody should only have to pay, like, maybe he pays 500, normal people pay 1,000. Like, that seems fair, not 10,000. It's like something's seriously broken there, seriously wrong. So, anyways, that's my take on it. I will see you in the next one, and I will be doing some more. Not tonight. I got the kiddos tonight, but um, and actually Friday I got to be careful too because I have an obligation. Anyways, that's fine. So, so yeah. So ta for now. I'll see you in the next one, and just be kind to each other. Like, just understand that Democrats have done some pretty shady things, and I'm pretty pissed off about it. And like, and the fact that they didn't even like not once cheered, clapped, or did anything, sat there pouting and all this. It's like, no, you lost the election. We're now heading in this direction, and it's just childish. And I was embarrassed by the Democrats last night. It's just like, come on, I get it. You're mad about these things, then fix them. But in Ukraine, like that, people are dying. I didn't want them to do that in the first place. Like, and if we really did meddle in their elections and kind of cause this, then the blood's kind of on our hands too. So, and I feel like people might be worried about that. Like, oh, I was able to jump over here. Awesome. All right, anyways, now I really gotta go. Ta ta. I'll see you in the next one. Almost 40 minutes now.